The Future is Here, impartida por Alan Russell, CEO de Tecma, a quien damos la más cordial bienvenida y cedemos el uso de los micrófonos. Adelante, Alan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I would like to personally thank Index, their incredible staff, for this incredible event. I would also like to thank Mexico Now and Index for this invitation to be here with you today. My perspective that I'm going to share with you is how a gringo views what's going on in Mexico, what's going on the border. My concept that I present to you is the future is here. So why do I say that? Why do I think the future is here, and how did we get here? So let me take you on a journey that started as far back as 2008, come on, 16 years ago. Oil prices globally hit $130 per barrel. The supply chain started to suffer. The cruise ships, or the container ships, started to pull their throttles back so they didn't burn as much fuel. So it took more time on the water. So the supply chain started to suffer. Complaints from those retailers and distributors in the United States were not getting their product on time. Same time, the prices were going up. And a perfect storm started. the wages and the cost in China started increasing. Logistics cost, exchange rates with the low dollar, the low value of the dollar to the international currencies began. That combined with the time on the water started boardrooms across the country, across the world, to start asking their operations team, what are we going to do? We can't allow cost to just continue to rise and not take action. So they're talking to their operations teams. So from 2008, 9, 10, it continued, cost continued to increase. Nobody did much of anything. There was nearshoring going on. There were companies moving to Mexico, moving back to North America, but it wasn't a breakneck pace. They were just acknowledging that they had a problem and they needed to start addressing it. And then this thing called the pandemic happened. Then the boardrooms were no longer asking their operations team, what are you going to do? They started screaming. It shut down and caused chaos, as you know, throughout the supply chain globally. Like nothing anyone has ever seen. Like no one could ever have predicted, nor could anyone have even imagined the impact that it would have on the world. This continued all the way through 2020, as you know, 21 still suffering, high inflation. So these boardrooms started telling their operations people, reshore, pull everything back into North America. Any company in the United States that was producing product in China, bringing it across and distributing it, was going to reshore part of that production. Not all of it, but a lot of it, if it's coming back to North America. European companies, the same way. China companies received an edict from the supreme leader to go global. That meant we can no longer supply the largest market in the free world, which is the United States, from China. We've got to be in North America. Just last week, a Chinese company came to our company and their edict was out of China, OOC. They had received an edict from their customer, which happened to be a small computer company called Hewlett-Packard. And HP said, if you're going to supply us in North America, then you've got to be in North America. So they were in a hurry. They said, move, we got to go. So if everyone's going to reshore back to North America, China's on the move, Europe's on the move, where are you going to go? California? Alabama? No, you're going to come to Mexico. That is where you can be close to the market, you can be globally competitive, and arrest this supply chain problem that is being haunting and is causing the largest problem. So in my younger days, I used to think that I was a hopeless romantic. But my beautiful wife has convinced me that I'm a hopeless optimist. But I am an optimist. And I have a very positive feeling about what's going on. There is a number of dynamics that are pushing our way, that are turning everything into a positive trend. Let me show you this first chart. Let me tell you why I think so. I think we can get a chart up here. Well, if we get a chart in a moment, we'll keep going here. The idea is that China production in the export global market is, there we go, check this out. You see that top bar across the top, that's in billions. That's China export countries worldwide. It's not internal China, that's what they're shipping out. Now we can imagine that most of that product is coming to the United States. Then look down at Mexico, number 9, that's in billions. Just look at the relative nature. Now most of that export coming out of Mexico is coming into the United States, and most of it is tied into the maquila, the index, EMEX industry. Automobiles, of course, take the bulk of that. Let's look at the next slide. Maybe I have control of that now. There. Check this out. China has 13.2% of the world exports. Mexico has 1.98% of world exports. Of course, most of Mexico's 1.9% is coming to the United States. Most of China's 13.2% is coming to the United States. So if we reduce, I did the math, if we reduce China due to this reshoring activity by 3.2%, and they come down to 10%. And let's be conservative and let's say that only half of that comes to Mexico. Most likely it'll be more than that, but let's say just half. That will take Mexico 80% increase over that 1.9%. In other words, almost double. As this nearshoring trend continues, China continues to move, US continues to move product out of China, Europe continues to move product out of China, all focusing on Mexico. Mexico has the potential to double its industrial and its manufacturing sector. Now just think about that. That means every city, every industrial city in Mexico, let's take Juarez as an example. It has 100 million square feet. That means it's gonna have 200 million square feet. Think of Monterrey, Guadalajara, all of the industrial cities. Now that has its challenges. How long is that gonna take? It's gonna be a decade, maybe 2 decades as this evolves. But imagine the economic and financial impact that this is gonna have on Mexico going forward. Sure, there's challenges. Everyone is talking about the politics. What are we going to do when the new administration takes their position? What's going to happen with the US elections? Everybody's standing around waiting on those type things to happen. But let me tell you something. I've been in this business. I've been on the border. I've been in Mexico for 38 years. My hair was dark when I started. This is what manufacturing will do to you, okay? So with that, I have seen multiple presidential elections on both sides of the border, multiple party changes on both sides of the border, multiple recessions on both sides of the border, globally. And every year, for these 38 years I've been in this seat, commerce between the US and Mexico has increased, with the exception of 2009, which was the middle of the Great Recession, but it rebounded immediately. And then there was this other little spot called 2020 when there was this pandemic. And it recovered immediately, as we all saw, like nobody could ever imagine. So do we really think that any politics is going to slow that down? It never has. And my Mexican friends will say, no, but it's different now. This is a completely different concept with the changes going on in the judicial system, et cetera. There has always been changes, and industry has flourished. There has always been challenges, administration changes, new rules, auditors, security issues, but commerce has flourished. I gave an example yesterday talking about commerce. It's like life itself. You can't stop it. I'm sure you've been in a desert environment along the coast and you see a rock and there's a tree growing out of the rock and you go, how is that possible? It's because you give the slightest chance for life to flourish and it'll happen. Commerce is exactly the same way. You see it everywhere. You build a new road in Mexico and the next day there's a tortilleria on the side of the road. Commerce cannot be slowed down. Politics will not slow it down. Industry will adjust. Yes, we need higher wages. We need more education. We need more infrastructure. But I am passionate with you, and I've seen it happen, that if we bring the jobs, all of those issues correct themselves. Today, our salary levels for the staff and employees around our operations are 3, 4, and 5 times what they were some years ago, because the technology we're bringing to the table is demanding it. They have to go get more education to perform these services. And there's not a country in the world that can argue with that data point, because the #1 highest rated factories in the world are in Mexico. Automotive, aerospace. Those aren't low-paying jobs. The more this nearshoring happens, the more industry comes. We have operations in our company that are delivering world-class EMT electronic devices, world-class medical products, clean room environments. Bring the jobs, the world will respond. I'm optimistic that our electricity problems, that our water problems, our infrastructure for roads, and all will be rectified as we continue to bring these jobs, because it brings more money, it brings more demand, and it brings the politics to the table to make it happen. Never in history has there been an opportunity like this for Mexico. Not just going back my 38 years, you can go back the previous 50 years. And there's never been a chance for Mexico like there is right now. This is the future. The future is here. I embrace you. I implore you to embrace it. It's wonderful. Let's focus on it, and let's take the next step. Thank you all very much.